Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 five-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com. Hey, welcome to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. This podcast is a ministry of the Small Town Network. We exist to make disciples, train pastors, and plant churches in smaller communities. My name is Eric Nielsen. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Tony Colomb. How you doing, Tony?
Doing great.
Good. And then today we're joined by Dave and Lori Vigna. I'm saying it right, Vigna?
Vigna is correct.
Vigna is correct. Okay. The G is like not a hard G. It's a Vigna. Okay. Good to have you guys. We actually know each other. I feel like we know each other from before Evergreen, but essentially we got more acquainted with each other since we both planted churches with the same church planting organization, which used to be the CEA of Washington, and then now is the Evergreen Network. So welcome to the podcast, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
You guys have a notable distinction. You are our first and only sponsors for our show. We always talk about 9cent Printing. We do a little promo in the beginning and the end of every episode. And you guys are the owners of 9centprinting.com. So thank you for your support and for allowing us to have that support and sponsor the program. So thanks for coming on today. We're going to jump in kind of how we normally do. We'd love you just to talk about kind of your pathway to ministry. You guys have been, maybe first introduce yourself. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been married, how long have you been in ministry? Where do you live? The name of your church, kind of the regular details, and then we'll kind of talk about your pathway into ministry.
Awesome. Well, Lori and I met back in like 1985, 84, 85 at church, at church in Vancouver, Washington, and got acquainted and married in 1986. So we'll be 40 years old in marriage by the end of this year, December.
Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Over those years, we've raised 5 children.
Wow.
I think we're up to how many grands?
Our 14th is due any
You have
day.
14 grandkids?
Whoa.
Wow. Congratulations.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, when we met, I was going to Bible college, not to necessarily become a minister, but to learn the will of God. And of course, the will of God is, big part contained in the Word of God. And so I decided I wanted to get a bigger dose of that. Having come out of a faith wherein I just didn't get the Bible as much as I got a lot of liturgy and such. And I'm so grateful for my parents giving me that standard of life and understanding God and trying to get to know Him in the way they did. And so I was grateful for the regularity of going to worship, going to church, Sunday by Sunday. My whole life, even when we went on vacations, my parents said, we're going to church. Okay. And I always had that built in. And then when I went off to college, University of Portland, I started to re-ask all the big questions, why am I here? Why is this right? When I started questioning, why do they believe a little differently? And so it pushed me into a desire to learn. And the Bible's the common denominator of most of the Christian faiths or tribes of faith. And so I wanted to dig in and get to know my faith, personally. So that's what I was led to do. All that to say, I ended up attending Bible college about the time we were getting together. I was into Bible college and got bit with becoming a vocational minister if God would have me to help in His kingdom.
Yeah.
So off we go.
And so you were going to University of Portland, and then you went where?
So after the University of Portland, which only ended up 1 year, I stopped attending, much to the chagrin of my parents. And I just started to go sideways a little bit, got a job and I was in banking. And then I
Mm,
got into direct sales work in the moving and storage industry.
mm,
And it was through that period of time that I came to Christ in the fuller sense of that understanding, a more complete understanding of what it really means to be a follower of Jesus,
mm, mhm.
affected the way I lived,
Mm.
uh,
Yeah,
not just the idea that there's a God. And
right.
Okay.
yeah,
Lori, how about you? Well, how did you, kind of become a follower of Christ?
I grew up in the church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, faithfully. And so that just stayed rooted with me. And I knew I didn't necessarily want to be a pastor's wife, but I knew I wanted to be heavily involved in church because that's
Mm.
just what we did growing up. We were there, always involved. And so it was a good fit
amen.
to serve
Yeah,
Dave in the kingdom.
has been a great fit. Yeah.
So
And
how did you guys meet?
In church.
In church in Vancouver.
Yeah,
So are you both native from Washington?
yeah.
Okay. So
Vancouver.
it just wasn't like a Bible college romance where you guys met at freshman year in the dorms or something, right?
Yeah, and ring by spring and the MRS degree. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So did you guys, was Bible college in there like before or after you guys met, or how did that all work out?
Well, during the period when we connected, I was attending Northwest College of the Bible in Portland, Oregon. And and I finished that degree, undergrad degree. It took me 7 years to get through a 4-year degree.
Nailed it.
Yeah. It's like,
Full time.
but it was okay. I could go at a pace that worked for us and the start of our family.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I was grateful for that flexibility in that school to get through the undergrad work. So
Yeah.
So with your U of P time and then your time working in the secular world and then this degree program you went through, how old were you when you kind of graduated and got going in full-time ministry?
32, I
Yeah.
think it was.
32, okay.
Yeah.
So not the traditional like 23-year-old that just graduated and right.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
We were actually just talking to the previous guest, kind of a similar story, kind of went to a different college and pursued a different path and then kind of got the ministry bug later. So I don't think that's as uncommon as people might suspect.
Right.
Okay, so from there, from Bible college, what was your like first full-time entrance into ministry? Where'd you go first?
Yeah, it was with the church in Vancouver called I think it's still called the Minnehaha Church. And
What's the name?
it's called, yeah, it's
It's
like
an Indian name, right?
Laughing Waters, I
Yes.
think.
Laughing is the Minnehaha.
Uh-huh.
There's a
Wow.
Minnehaha,
Okay.
like area of Vancouver, Washington.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Been there a long time. Anyway, so
Yeah.
little church there
Huh.
that we became very engaged and involved with. And following school, following my graduation from Northwest College of the Bible, I took on a ministry role part-time, and then it moved into a full-time role as an associate.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
And
were some of your main responsibilities in that role?
well, mostly church administration and evangelism.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we just trying to build up the body there, and
Yep.
and had some degree of blessing from the Lord over that, and it was a good place to get my feet wet in ministry.
Hmm.
Yeah, without having
Now,
the full-time responsibilities of feeding as well as doing some leading.
right.
So
Right.
And I'm guessing you had multiple children at this point, right?
Pregnant with third?
yeah, right in there.
Yeah. We had
Yeah.
two and pregnant with a third at that time.
Okay, because you had 5 kids total. So during the process of going to college and like starting your ministry career, you're having children.
Yeah.
Okay.
Busy.
then at some point
It's
you ended up
adventurous.
down in Albany, right? At Eastside Christian Church.
Correct. Yeah. Well, we transitioned to Spokane, Washington for
Okay.
a
Oh,
5 year
okay.
Oh, wow.
where that's where I began to both feed and lead, and preaching.
Mm.
So I had a senior ministry responsibility there for turned out to be a 5 year period, the last 5 years,
Mhm.
96 through 2000.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that ministry experience ended with them letting me go. And
Mm.
so we had 5 children at the time,
Yeah.
owned a home, and had to make a big decision as to,
My
okay,
Oh,
gosh.
what do we do now?
Yeah.
yeah.
And and it might be helpful to anybody that would be watching this, that for us, our entrance into ministry was in an accountable way. So we had 4 men that laid hands on me,
Mm.
uh, and uh, to as far as my beginnings at
Mm.
Vancouver in ministry. And so then we transitioned to that role in Spokane, and then that ended not like we wanted it to, but
Yeah.
so
Right,
I
right.
went back to those guys and said, look, I'd like you to investigate and determine whether I could still be
Mm.
seen as a potential possible, servant in the Lord's kingdom in the roles I have been going forward, because
Mm.
obviously there was an issue that happened with us there.
So
And so
wait a second, wait a second. So you're saying you went back to the men who commissioned you and basically asked them to affirm your ministry calling after you've been fired?
Mhm.
correct.
Wow.
I've never
Why
heard
not?
anyone say that in my entire
That's
life. That's incredible.
Well, we felt it was very important because I'm not in ministry on my own. I'm
mm.
in ministry in part serving the kingdom, and God has
Mm.
shepherds and people in the kingdom that I've always looked at my eldership and those that I'm reporting to them. In a sense, I'm under some accountability.
Mm.
So I'm not a strong man leader or minister, pastor, how
Mm.
you want to say it. And so I always want to be under the protection, I think,
Right.
of the Lord, and He has people that would help protect me. In
Mm.
this case, I went back to those guys and asked them to investigate.
Mm.
So they called and they checked, and so and then in the end they said, "No, we'll still support you."
Mhm.
Wow.
So that
I think
allowed me.
that's incredible. That's so humble, first
Yeah.
of all, to do that. And second of
Yeah.
all, what a great example of like biblical integrity. Like I'm gonna still, even though I don't attend the church the guys that commission me, I'm still gonna feel like I'm accountable to them and I want their feedback, I want their input.
Mm.
I'm inviting people to check me out and
Mm.
make sure my character is not out of line. That is
Wow. Wow.
not the story that we
Not
hear
common. Not
when
common.
people get fired.
Yeah,
Usually
yeah.
they want to trash the
Sorry
people
to
that
sorry to
fired
hang
them.
on that and like kind of interrupt the story, but like you could probably tell Eric and I are taken back from that just because we certainly between the two of us know a lot of other pastors, and it's usually like when somebody gets fired from a church, there's almost like more often than not a bitterness, like, "Oh, I was done wrong," and I'm not saying you didn't wrestle with some of that at some point, but just almost like an arrogance that's carried forward of like, well, I'm going to go find a job and I'm going to prove that I can do this, even with people who are supposed to be leading others in humility. So thank you for that testimony. That is a powerful testimony.
That's where we get a lot of church planners from. It's like I got
Yeah.
fired from my last church. I
Yeah.
know.
I
I'll
might
go
as well
start
start a
my
new
own.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and one of the things we thought about is, we were up there in Spokane, and Spokane needed more churches, and so we just let go from this responsibility. And so, what do we do with that? I owned a home. We had 5 children, all under the age of 10,
Under 8.
and
Andy didn't have
I, and they wanted to give me, 60 days of severance, and I appealed to them at the time. I said, and I remember this very vividly, says, well, I would appeal to you to consider, it takes about, for what I was being paid at the time, that one of the rules was for every $10,000 a year you earn is going to take a month. So I was earning over 40 at that time. So I said, I need 4 months, guys, to get relocated in ministry should the Lord allow me to be involved in ministry again. And so, and they took that and they allowed me to take 4 months severance with that so I could get engaged in another ministry. And it would be a ministry outside of that town. I wouldn't try to
Mm.
start another church or go to work in some
Plant the church, yeah.
we felt we had to relocate,
Okay.
sell the home, relocate to someplace else. And so we went on to
So
search. And
eventually that's what led you to
Right.
Albany.
That's how we got to Albany.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Now we had a little talk off camera here about kind of the nature of like being a pastor, a stay-at-home mom with 5 kids. And it wasn't like part of the script, but since it came up, I think that's something we should talk about for a few minutes. And I'd like to ask Lori about this. Because right now, like we all have kids that are like adults, and that you guys are sharing 5 kids, 14 grandkids.
We don't all have adult kids.
I'm sorry. We all meaning the people at the top of the screen. And we know how hard it is for like families today. The price of housing and stuff like that. It's really uncommon to have, I shouldn't say uncommon, less and less common, it seems like, for a husband to be the sole provider and the wife to be home with the kids. And we don't have to talk about whether that's right or wrong or whatever. It's just the reality. But you guys were saying before we started that you made the decision to to choose that route. Lori, what was the benefit of that for you? So like you guys as a couple obviously decided that. What was the benefit of you being a stay-at-home mom all those years and having to eke it out on one income?
Oh, it was wonderful. If I had to do it again, I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, it was tight, but man, I became a great coupon clipper. I became a great garage sale shopper, secondhand store. My kids all grew up and didn't even know any different. And God just through various ways just provided things that were beyond what we could ever foresaw coming. Like all of our kids ended up with braces. And I remember as we didn't know we were new to Spokane, we had to come up with a down payment, which was like $1,000, which might as well have been $100,000.
Yeah.
I remember trusting the Lord. Okay, I'm going to have a garage sale. I don't have anything to sell, but I'm going to trust we're going to come up with the money. And he did. And I don't even know what we sold that was worth $1,000. But just through the years, you can just see God faithfully just go ahead of us, provide, protect, take care of us. We were blessed. I mean, in some senses, not to make so much money that we qualified for food stamps. We qualified for state medical insurance and dental and eye. So my kids got all of that. And larger because we had such a large family, which was the blessings of a larger family. You qualify for some of those state benefits that we as taxpayers pay into. So why not be blessed by using them? And I considered them a great blessing. I was not above any help out there that was available for the people. So
Yeah.
that was huge for us. We drove old cars. We still drive old cars. And that works for us. We don't need brand new. I don't need a huge wardrobe. I don't need 30 pairs of shoes or purses. I'm very content with little. And God has just provided. And our kids are all very frugal, very open to secondhand garage sale, and still to this day.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
yeah.
So obviously, and the reason this came up, and I don't want to get into your business just yet. We'll save that for the second half, but obviously there's implications of that, right? When you're struggling along and there's single income, and fast forward now, many years forward, you were talking about, essentially to have the kind of life we wanted to have with our children cost us financially later, right? Am I saying that correctly? How would you, elaborate on that for people? I don't want to tell your story for you.
Yeah, so if you think about it, we wanted to make sure the kids had a good experience growing up in a pastor's home. Okay.
Right.
fishbowl.
you don't want, PKs later on, giving a bad testimony about the church, especially, leading leadership in church and such. So, we wanted the kids to be able to experience some, vacationing and family things that we could do together, and that they could have their teeth, straightened, and they could enjoy some of these kinds of things that other families do, and that
Can I tell the paper story?
and paper route
So
stories.
when we were living in Albany, again, I was constantly looking for ways as a family with me and the kids so we can supplement our income. We delivered phone books. We did 4 paper routes, and with the paper routes, we they had a contest. Whoever can get the most subscriptions would win a trip to Disneyland. And I am an extremely competitive person.
Are you? Okay.
So I'm like, we're gonna do it because we had never been
Winning.
to Disneyland. And so as a family, so me and the kids, we went out and we got more prescriptions than anybody else, and we actually won a trip to Disneyland.
No way.
Right there, grab that picture.
That is
Or
awesome.
like the whole family got to go for that?
Yep, there we go.
Look at
No
that
way.
with the
That's
walt.
great.
I love it. What year was that?
2004.
2000.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And our kids understood at a very young age the value of working hard. There's
Awesome.
work is, and you can earn things with it, not just money and paychecks, but
The trade-off is that, when a lot of people have already begun setting money aside for the future, for retirement and stuff, you guys were barely making bills pay, so you didn't have a lot set aside early on. And it's interesting because I was just talking about this with someone the other day. In our independent churches, it's more common now for churches to do something for pastors in the way of retirement. But I've been doing this for 30 years, and it sounds like you guys have been somewhere, along that same 30, 40 years. When we started, that was almost unheard of. It was like, well, if you wanted a retirement plan, you should have been a Presbyterian, because independent Christian churches don't have retirement plans for their pastor. Which I've never felt bitter about. I've never felt like we got cheated or like they did us wrong. Most of our churches are just small churches that don't have a lot of money.
Right.
And because we're not part of a larger entity, we don't have the means to do stuff like that. And that's just kind of the way it is. But that's forced a lot of us to kind of take matters into our own hands, because if we don't, we're not going to be provided for. Like if we don't provide, obviously this is all under the banner of like the Lord and the Lord providing, but if we don't do something, we're not going to have anything. And so my wife and I bought a rental house. And I know you guys have a rental house and you guys started a business, which we'll get into in our next episode, but you find yourself in a situation where you have to do something, or else you're, never going to retire. So there's a whole series of ministries that we know about, some in our own tribe, that are like, it's like the poorhouse for retired pastors who don't have anything, like place for them to live, because they've never owned a home. They have no money saved up. There's no Social Security there. I mean, it can be tragic. So it's interesting how those life choices, early on, they have implications later for good and bad. You raised your kids the way you wanted to. You're happy with how they turned out. Financially, it wasn't the best move, but spiritually it was, or familia. I don't know. It's interesting just to kind of think all that stuff out.
Yep.
You were going to say something?
Yeah, well, we'll have to be at peace with what decisions we make in the raising of our families, and so various people have to be able to be at peace with that, and so I respect everybody's views on how that they have to do that given their situation and the couple, whatever, raising the family and such. For us,
no one size fits all, right? I guess
that's right. I
make
mean,
choices and live with it. Yeah.
Kind of figure it out. And so we desired to do some homeschooling. That was important for us at the time, which was helpful with with you being able to handle that responsibility and take it on as well. So,
And not just homeschool my kids, I actually created a business.
Oh, you did?
Oh,
And homeschool 6 other families.
there you go.
so
And
yeah.
made some income that way, supplied out
Well,
some income.
Let's fast
Yeah.
forward to when I kind of met you guys when you were getting ready to plant in Vancouver. So tell me the name of your church in Vancouver.
Called the Branch.
The
Christian-
Branch, that's right. In fact, you let me come speak there when I was out, beating the bushes trying to get my church started. So thank you for that.
Right. That's right.
What led you from the established church role you had in Albany to want to go plant a church? Because how old were you when you planted?
57.
Yeah, you're not the normal church plant guy. I mean, I planted at 45 this time, and
Okay.
I'm not the normal church plant guy.
Correct.
So what led you guys to that point where you decided it was time to leave and to plant a church in Vancouver?
Yeah, so we had a real good run with Eastside and the development of quite a bit there, and came to the conclusion at a certain point in 2014 that maybe it was time to shift
next?
and look at um the next season that God might have us serve, maybe my last season, given that I was 55 when we started to talk
Your
about this.
last season.
No, I was like, well, how long will I be able to, manage, leading? And that's, sometimes not, I might be willing, but others might not be willing to want me to lead. So anyway, we were looking at that, and we had always had this kind of dream to plant a church. We looked at doing church planting back in the early 90s, and we investigated Northern California, Seattle, Portland. And at that time, it was uh, church planting hadn't developed,
Yeah.
at least in our circles, as much
Mhm.
as it had,
Right.
later on when we decided to, when we were older. And so there wasn't the coaching there,
Right.
just a whole different system at work. You were kind of like a missionary here, we'll give you some money, go out and do it. And that was like a little bit of intimidation to me anyway, not having led really much in regard to church at all. So we decided to just wait, or well, we'll see what happens. And so later on, then we felt a concluding time or time of transition with the church in Albany, and some of that was just differences in where we wanted to go as a leadership. And so it wasn't a complete unity. There had been some shift, some mix up in the eldership there. And that can be, for us, it didn't turn out to be the best way going forward. So I decided to make an exit. And I was just looking to, okay, what pulpit ministry, what church out there may be in going through some transition too. So I reached out to George Johnson, who is I reached out to several kind of center of influence people that knew others, because I can't go to the denominational person that says, that's in charge of all the churches or what have you. We have to just kind of work that.
Yeah.
Find that. So John said, well, of course, he was leading the CEA. So he says, well, why not church planting? I go, so George, I'm too old.
You're too old.
I wasn't thinking of planting a church, but
That's fantastic.
he put
I
it in.
actually asked him when I called him, I go, do you think I'm too old to plant a church? He's like, of course not. Have you met Dave Vigna? That's not what he said.
I'm the poster child for old guys
Yeah.
to plant churches.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So did you guys have Vancouver as a target right away? Like, because that's kind of your own stomping ground, or?
Well, it was on the top of the list of possibilities. George has basically said, look, you could just throw a dart at the Pacific Northwest. And, which he was able to help us plant church at that point in time, most anywhere,
Mm.
rather than just in the CEA of the Seattle area. And he says we could justify planting a church about anywhere, So we thought coming back into the Clark County area where we had some resource people, right, that might be the best next scenario for us. And so that's how we ended up out here in what we call East Clark County.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Awesome.
let's I'll ask you this and we'll talk about this and kind of wrap this episode up. We'll kind of get into the other stuff second half. I think it's important to talk about having older planters. Our little new network, we're launching our 4th church this year.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And 3 of them are going to be launched with people that are like 45 and up. And we're seeing kind of a pattern emerge of like there's some advantages to people that are older planting churches. But again, that's not our normal. We don't think of older people planting churches. We think of young, exciting, cool guys, not grandfathers and, guys like Tony, young, handsome,
That's right.
dressed hip, stuff like that. So what would you guys say? I'd love to hear both of you on this. What do you think after working in churches for years and then planting at an older age? What's the advantages to that? Are there advantages to like coming at this when you're a little more fully developed and mature and have more experience or what?
I think in some sense, there's an advantage of having that experience under your belt with teaching, preaching, working with people, working with ministry people. I think that helps a lot because you don't have to kind of relearn some of that. He has a tool belt of sermons that he's had through 35, 40 years of ministry, if needed. But for us, I felt like having the kids raised, we had a little more time and energy. We're both, I feel, very young at heart. So we have a lot of energy to give. It's not always the age as a factor as much as just, your energy. We both still felt we had something to offer the kingdom and wanted to be used by God. So it was our next step that just made the most sense for us at this season of our life.
Well, yeah.
So being empty nesters is an advantage, right? Because
Well, we weren't quite empty nesters at that.
close. Okay. Kids are older.
Teenagers, 16, 17-year-old.
Yeah.
And Nikki came with us and our daughter moved with us. So we had 3 kids still at home with us.
That's cool though that they got to be part of that. Like we moved here to plant, we were empty nesters, but not having the daily responsibility of a bunch of little kids that you're trying to manage. That's an upside. The experience, 30 years of ministry experience before you do this probably certainly helped. What else, Dave, do you think was an advantage of planning older?
Well, and I don't know how the small town network works it, but we were asked to raise funds. I don't, so having been in churches, having a bunch of people from our past that had been already invested in us to some degree was, I think, a huge help for us to be able to raise funds that we needed to help start the church.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So those connections and some of those folks there's still a residual of 2 or 3 or 4 that give us money, and we're in the 11th year now. So
it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are their names and numbers? Hey, you hit on something that's very practical. When I was a 27-year-old and we planted our first church, all my ministry friends were youth pastors. Well, youth pastors don't have any money. They don't make them church budgets. They can't get you a line item on the church budget for the new church plant. And it was all we could do to raise the very minimum that our organization required us to raise. It's like, and it was like the last hour, one person came in with a big check and a big pledge, and it changed the whole thing, but we were struggling. The second time when I was 45, it literally was like no problem. We just raised the money. But the connections, the life experience. I think also something that I'll say from my side of things was like the faith.
Mm-hmm.
The first time around, I was, at 27, I was constantly under this fear of failing, of like, what if we try to do this and it doesn't work, and felt a tremendous amount of pressure to like make this thing go. And the second time around at an older age of life, I had no fear that it wasn't going to work. And not because of confidence in myself, but I'd seen the Lord show up for, 20 years in a row, and through all these different circumstances that life and ministry throw at you. And I just had this quiet confidence that it's just going to work. I mean, do you guys feel like that was part of it for you also, like the faith component?
No, for sure. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that's excellent because, that's what we've relied on when the numbers weren't there, it's like, oh, what about this? What about that? Well,
The
this,
math never works out on
Yeah.
purpose. We know that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
yeah. And so you just knowing that God has got us through things in times past,
Yeah.
and we can depend on him. And if things, I remember our oldest daughter asking me at one point, she was concerned about what if the church doesn't make it? I said, well, okay, we'll go on to what's next thing. What's next? It's like, was it like we had to, it's so we're grateful that God's special providence is there.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do his will. We're called according to his purpose. And so his hand shows up and we're still here. And a lot of people think we shouldn't be. It's not like we're not blowing it up really, but
Let them talk.
Still a presence, a lighthouse. We're still a hospital for hurting people. People coming.
Yeah.
One of the things about having been in ministry and we in our Bibles all through the years, and then we're called to kind of a young guys ministry, like it seems, is that, new churches, new plants, this is what we've noticed, at least in our environment, is we attract some interesting scenarios of people that are coming sometimes with an agenda.
Yeah.
They're coming from another church that they've maybe caused problems
Yeah.
or
asked to leave.
I don't know. But we attract them. And of course, we reach out and invite everybody.
Yeah.
20,000 households at a time right now on a monthly basis.
We send it in their mailbox.
We send a billboard in their mailbox. And so we get interesting.
That's what they look like. Look how
Oh,
big
that's
they
great.
So
I bet I know who prints those.
so we get people from various theological backgrounds that are very, strong in their viewpoints. And that, because I've been around a while and have dealt with some of this in the past, it doesn't, I can somewhat handle it. I don't know, sometimes in a very good way, but at least I know how to protect the flock that the Lord has given me charge to protect from what I consider to be some false stuff or some stuff that is not gonna serve you well if you keep on this path. So,
and that's also something that comes with age. Yeah,
it comes with some experience, maturity in the scriptures, and so yeah.
Well, man, that's great. Let's put a bookmark there and wrap this episode up, and then we'll kind of get into the second half. So let me just kind of do our outro. Thanks everyone for listening. Be sure to check out our amazing sponsors at 9centprinting.com. If you like what we're doing, please like or subscribe where you watch or listen. And if you're interested in Small Town Network, you can find us online at smalltownnetwork.com. And if you believe in the importance of planting disciple-making churches in smaller communities, we'd love you to consider partnering with us in prayer and financial support. You've been listening to the Small Town Pastor Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 5-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or a small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9 Cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com.